Ever to be old. Next item on the agenda, review and discussion of construction plans. Mr. Brown, do you have something you're wanting to before we got started on that?
Let me just kind of set up our discussion. A couple of things. First of all, let me just kind of set up some of the questions that we need to answer today. We have, I think, the bottom line questions that we need to answer today as a board, and this is without voting. We just need to find out where our consensus is the location of the concession stand and the location of the field house. Past that, we need to determine what are the things that are going to be important that we want included in the concession stand, kind of our bottom lines or minimums, and beyond that, even have maybe a little discussion about the field house and what's going to be included there, although I don't know that discussion is going to be quite as extensive or varied. So that's how we need to enter into this discussion that we're having. Let me say just a couple of things, though, before we open it up. We have had over the past, I'd say, 6 weeks, 2 months, some very varied opinions that have come out regarding location, what's included. We've had some really good discussions. Greg Huseman and his crew have done a really good job of taking our suggestions and building them into the plans to see what they might look like. One thing that I have been very pleased with us as a team, and I want to make sure that we continue this. When we begin this discussion, this is the time for our varied opinions to really come to the table. Once we get to a consensus, I have found that this team together has done a very good job. Once we get to a consensus, everybody supports the decision and we move forward. I think that is something that, and as I've said, I think in an email to you guys, not every school board has that. That is extremely important for us and this team. And I honestly, to tell you guys what kind of effect that has, when a board acts that way, the entire district can be healthy. When the opposite happens, it affects the entire organization. And I just want to congratulate you guys. And as we set this up, this is going to be it is okay to disagree. It is okay to bring a varied opinion. When we all come to a consensus, we really need to move forward with that consensus. And that's the experience I've had with this team. And that's what I expect will happen. And I appreciate you guys. One last thing I might say on this, and that is, I think sometimes when we come to these discussions, we get driven by this idea that we don't want to do anything wrong, that we want to do everything right. Can I just tell you, I promise you, guaranteed that once we get it all decided and built, there's going to be people that walk in and say, why did they do that? So I promise you that. So if we can just maybe dispel that fear and let's come to the best decision we can today, understanding that we're not going to do it perfectly. And other people, once it gets built, will have other opinions. But that doesn't mean we were wrong in our discussions and what we decided, if that's okay to say. All right. So how would you like to proceed, Mr. President?
You've got that in the concession stand followed by field house. In my mind, I'll just open the discussion by tossing my opinion out. There's been a lot of talk about moving the concession stand and whatnot to the south side of the field. My concern in doing that is just having to provide a second set of utilities, sewer, water, electric, coming into a brand new facility. But then I had expressed those concerns to Mr. Brown, who had then heard back from our builders that we were still going to need new utilities coming in, regardless of which side of the field that was, the utilities that came into the existing concession stand restroom area was going to have to be replaced. So, in my mind, the decision needs to be made first is where the field house is going to go. Because if the field house is not going to go on the north side of the field, and the decision of the board is to place a concession stand on the south side of the field, that eliminates the cost of bringing in utilities to that north part. If the field house is going to go on the north part, we've still got to bring in new utilities to that facility, plus have utilities come into a new facility on the south side. So I would be interested first in the board's opinion on the location. From the very beginning, we've talked about behind the new concession stand to the north side of the football field, extending out into the practice fields there. But I've heard a lot of side discussions considering moving that to the old tennis court area to the south side of the road for that. So I'd be interested in the board's thoughts, concerns, direction that they had on having a different spot than our original spot that we had listed on our bond issue.
I think my two biggest concerns is one, and Huseman, this is probably a question for you guys. Do we have the funds set aside to build 2 buildings and build them to the quality that we were going to build 1 building? Utilities and everything. Are we to that point yet to even find out?
I've been thinking about that in the last week or so, and the
Brittany,
budget
Brittany, could you turn
for
on your microphone?
turn the microphone and point it towards.
the budget, with the bond was about $4.8 million for the concession stand field house. It was going to be in one area, and that included the parking. So, and I think if we, break the concession and the field house up, I would, just on the stuff we were going to talk about later. And I was kind of looking at some of the floor plans we were looking at, and just trying to look at estimates of what I think they would cost per square foot. And I come up with around $300 a square foot, 320. And the field house would cost less, and the concession area would probably cost more. So if you break the $4.8 million up, and let's say if we set the budget for the concession stand about at $800,000, and we're going at $320, $340 a square foot, that basically makes a concession about 2,200 square feet, that building. And then if you go with the field house, that leaves about $4 million for the field house. And at the, say, $300, a little underneath that per square foot, you're around, the 13,000 square foot. So I would have a tendency to say if we break them up, for the parameters per square footage, I'd shoot for around 2,200 square feet for the concession, and about 12,000, between 12,000, maybe between there and maybe 12,500 or something for the field house.
But that's
to try to get those, but that's with no parking, in the original. But then as we do it, we might design things into the building that is kind of a wish list, and we could get those prices, and we actually get those prices and make those choices at that time based on the prices. There just like the field house, there could be an option for ceramic or something, for in some of the areas versus not. There could be options for some colonnades that have been drawn up. It could be options for that. There could be options for the weight room, flooring in the weight room. So generally when we do a building and we come up with options, I would say there's at least 10% of options to choose from. Maybe even higher than that. I think sometimes they even get up to 20. So you kind of head in the direction you want to go, and then you look at the quality. You have your square footage, and then you have your prices, and that kind of determines the overall quality.
So did I understand you correctly? You were saying with the concession stand in the field house, we would not have enough for the parking lot?
Or
that's not setting aside.
If I was going to head down that road, I would maybe hope for something in the parking, but when it comes down to getting all the numbers in, there may be choices to be made at that time might determine some of that.
And then I guess my other issue with having everything in one building, and I talked to Coach Darty about this, made a good point. If you have everybody going at halftime down to the concession stand, and you also have both teams and officials all running the same way, you're asking for trouble there with parents from other towns, from here. You know, there's got to be some kind of chute or something in there that, you know, so the players and officials can get to the locker room without running into fans that are down around the same area.
Has it been a problem in the past?
They're all running out. They're not running down that way. They're running back to the current locker rooms.
I'd say then the field house doesn't need to be behind the concession stand then.
Just another thought.
Yeah. So. That's why my opinion is concession stand on the south end, because that eliminates that. And if the field house is on the practice field, moving forward at some point, theoretically, we could add an indoor facility onto that building.
How much is the practice field used, Josh and Ryan?
Well, with the plan that we have, I mean, some of the arguments that's been made is we're going to go too far into the practice field. If you remove the concession stand out and we put the front of this field house there, we're not going that far back as it is right now into that practice field. So it's utilized more for Little League soccer, but I thought we were building a new soccer field over here at the park with the baseball soccer field that's going up. So if we're worried about that, there's a new field being built in our town to house those leagues that are back there right now. And so I'm just saying, in the plan, we're not going that far back into that grass field as it is. And I also agree with Jeff whenever he's talking at some point, I think we're going to have to go down the road of looking at an indoor, because if you talk to Mr. Kemp, and we've already had this conversation, our soccer teams have to practice inside of a gym when it's in December and January. And I know that's not for this meeting, but that's all they have. And so when you do add something like that, I mean, it opens up for a lot of sports. And so when we make this decision, I mean, that's been talked about, as well as leaving room back there for something like that. I know that was in the initial plans. But I had talked to him about this. If I had a vote on this, I think you go the concession stands on the south end, you go the field house on the north, and don't put us in a bind of having to go against the lawsuit because of safety issues by putting a concession stand right there with the field house. It won't be good. It won't be good. I can just tell you guys now. We need to split this thing up.
Does Dalhart, don't they have their concession with the locker rooms next to each other?
No,
On the south end?
because their concession stands on the west.
Yeah,
It's on the home side.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody that's built it the way that we were initially talking about building it. Putting a concession stand in front of it. And most people don't do it because of the reason we're talking about. You don't want to put fans down there and teams walking through fans. You don't want the refs walking through the fans. You're setting yourself up for a bad situation. So.
We're splitting up the buildings instead of splitting them up, instead of just putting the weight room and all this stuff against the Rangerette instead of the concession stand, because then with the weight room and all that stuff in there, we wouldn't need the other parking lot that's in the plans for the 4.8, because everything, any powerlifting competition that would have been out there would be over there next to the Rangerette where all that is together, where we already have a parking lot. And then the locker rooms for the either soccer or football, the visitors would just be staying beside their bleachers.
This was my only deal when I talked to you about this. Like I invited our school board. I invite you guys to go walk our facilities. Where we're at right now inside of our facilities is not good. And I don't know if you guys have walked back through. Like we have a weight room that our second story is on plyo boards. That's not safe. We've got ceilings that are missing inside of our locker rooms that have electrical work showing. I mean, so my deal has been, why do we want to add another building onto what's already there that's not good? It's not. And why don't we put a brand new building separate from all this and then work to fix what we have right now.
Cause I don't think we need a separate building out there with, coaches' offices and locker rooms that are only gonna be used for football and soccer.
Cross country.
Track.
Track.
Well, that's a training room, that's a cross country, that's track,
So the
that's soccer, that's
Where'd you-
football.
So the train,
here,
so if you need to go to the
this-
training room when you're in basketball, you're gonna have to go
One on
outside to go do it and then
Well,
come
there's
back.
two.
Well,
Yeah.
there's probably two. Still have the one next to the gym unless they update it.
Why don't we just make a bigger, nicer one and, over there? Or, I mean, that's just my opinion.
We just don't have room, I don't think. Like, that's where y'all need to come and walk through because,
Yeah.
like, we're really limited on space as far as the range goes. Going through.
That's
We've
my,
had to change refs this year. In the past 10 years, we stuck the refs in the weight room, okay? Because it's easy access to the football field. The problem with that is they had no showers.
sure.
They had no AC, so we're sticking officials coming in off halftime. It'd be 103 in that weight room.
Yeah.
Well, then we wonder why we, don't get any
Don't get
calls and no officials want to come up here. So now I walk them through all the way to the freshman girls locker room where they got AC, they got showers, they got space, and they're like, we love this. So it's just comes down to room, I think.
Well, that's what I'm curious if we can build more and bigger off of the Rangerette than we could an individual building on the north side of the field.
I think it's going to be the same, and I think if you look at it like a visual aspect, I think two bookends on your field is going to look really, really nice. Thank you. And sharp, rather than having a brand new building connected to our old building that needs work.
Well, I want work done to the old building too, still.
That's
And it is part of the plan.
Yeah.
To
So
rework.
what is
rework
y'all's
some of those
idea
old
as
locker
far as
rooms,
all
right?
the old, right now where the coaches are, coaches' offices right there?
Renovate some of the
right
gym
along that
locker
north
rooms.
side.
Yes.
right.
Are you envisioning probably gutting all that out then? I mean,
Are you
is
talking
that-
about upstairs?
No, I'm talking there in the Ranger gym along the west side where the glass is right there
Okay.
facing the gym.
Where
We've
that
got
long-
offices right there.
long hallway. I assume
I
it's
mean-
staying the same. Like I haven't heard any plan on doing
In
any
that
of
part
that.
Well, I
of,
haven't heard
part of
any of
that,
them.
is that part of the remodel that we're doing?
The locker room area,
Yes.
the Ranger,
Where
where
the
the
offices
current,
are.
where the current coach's office is
Yes,
and all
sir.
that,
Yeah.
yes,
But
that's
you're
ours, that's still in part of the plans is renovating.
There's a couple different coaches' offices, Mr. Brown. Because there's my office, like when you walk through door 8
Mm-hmm.
in the coach's parking lot, and then there's the football coaches' offices. Like my understanding is all that's getting redone for the girls' locker room. But then when you flip it, there's a long hallway where our soccer coaches' offices are, and then David's office is that's butted up right next to the. Is that getting redone? Because I haven't heard.
I believe when I've looked at the map, what you guys provided originally, that whole west, kind of like there's a line along the west side of that gym that is scheduled for
All the way over
redoing.
to the laundry room?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cause I've been in those rooms before and it's not very good use of space.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'd be better just to knock all that out in the remodel and, I don't know what structural walls are
Put
there or
coach's
not
offices
there,
somewhere
but
else completely different.
completely different.
Well,
Yeah,
now
use
we
that
are-
for locker room space and maybe build something for the refs.
Right now, we're having to utilize, so we have 3 soccer coaches behind that glass window that you're talking about.
Right.
And then David is basically, that's not a coach's office. Yeah,
Like
he's
a
in
closet.
He's in a closet.
Has a bathroom though.
And
a
Is that
shower.
the old AD's office?
Yeah.
Right.
Let me
Right.
kind of.
So we've been using pretty much every space that we have down there right now is being utilized.
Right. Well, I'm just talking, if we're talking about remodeling, my thought process, and it's just an idea, but maybe we gut that whole area out. Cause you don't have air conditioning.
Right.
There's nothing, on that part of it. And then of course there's the upstairs, probably where your
Right.
office is at right now.
The only thing that we still have down there and we would get rid of it too with a move is all of our football supplies are down there. So
Along
that
along
long hallway that you
Right.
see behind the
Yeah.
wall.
Look at the.
Yeah. And I
So we've
remember
got
what it
shoulder
was.
pads, helmets, everything football wise is in a storage closet in that long hallway.
Opposite the
And so-
coach's office.
Right there where those 3 soccer coaches are.
Uh-huh.
So
Right
where
beside
that big glass is, just to the south
Yeah.
of it, there's a.
That's
big
where all the
glass
storage
wall.
is.
Yeah.
This is the current coaches'
Yeah.
offices and weight room right here. All of that is still part of what we were planning to.
So everything's gonna get touched except basically the gym floor.
The gym floors.
But see, like in that A2 where it says no work,
That's
that-
just the,
That's the red.
that's the
gym.
red.
right.
That's the red. gym.
But, okay, just, well, where the 3 below the phase,
Yeah.
okay,
That's
that
what's coming
area,
out.
all that, if we do something to that part,
We are.
then we're gonna have to redo the whole basketball floor court because that goes into it. And that's where the goal is on that end and all that stuff.
It's not gonna come out
So-
that far.
No, there's
So
That's-
yeah.
It hangs out that
For
far.
this, for this discussion though,
But that's where all
You'll
the,
come out 10 feet, is that?
I think it's not, it doesn't quite get to the.
So will you have to
So-
remove the wall
remove
along the, where
the-
right above the
We would
three?
be adding a wall.
You said you'd add another wall.
guys right there, right now
It's
is
right
where
behind the
there's
back door.
currently weights. There's
Right, in
weights.
A1.
No. In 3, where
Yeah,
there's
3.
leg
Out in-
machines and stuff.
Out in the
That's
gym.
out into the
Right.
gym.
There on the end.
We move those weights out. They're gonna move a wall in there, and it's just we're not gonna have
So-
this much open back behind the gym.
so I don't want to get lost in phase 3 discussions right now
That's what we're
because
talking
we really,
about right now.
right.
This
yeah,
area right here.
because
This
I
is
really,
July 26th, so I mean, we.
But
Yes.
the reason I
What we need
bring
to
that
do
up,
today.
the reason I bring that up though, is if we didn't put that money into that part and add that next to the Rangerette in that facility.
No can do,
um,
2 separate bonds. 2 separate bond proposals.
The other reason we really like the
Anything for this.
field house on the north end is just you can utilize the track out of your weight room.
can you zoom out a minute? So, okay, never mind. I do want to ask one question because this has come up several times. Utilities to the north side and the south side of the field. Is there extra cost bringing utilities to the south side as opposed to the north? Just what is our cost there? That's come up several times from several different members.
Basically on the west side and, on that street, if I get this, there's a sewer line that goes all the way down that street.
Right here.
But it's about 15 feet deep. And so, so we did a field house and we did a concession, we would go out there and we would get a new sewer tap in probably, 2 places. And then the water, stops basically coming down that street about the north end of the bleachers on that west side. The north end of the bleachers, kind of the water main kind of stops over in that area. So we would, the field house, we would probably do a new tap over there, run a new line out to the field house to run, make sure we have plenty of water for all the toilets and all that. In the concession, we would have to run a new water line along that west side to get down there to that south side. But I don't see that being a whole lot of difference. But I would say the additional utilities could I would put somewhere between 75 and 100,000.
So,
Split it up.
so how many bathrooms would be in the field house?
Toilets.
Uh,
Do you still feel like you need to run new lines for that, even though it has how many restrooms out there now?
well,
Toilets.
you're gonna have a lot of new locker rooms with a lot of bathrooms.
Right now, the sewer line goes to the east.
Right.
Goes all the way around,
Goes
the
this
building
way?
to the east. There's a manhole at the very southeast corner of the high school. And I think it all turned off if I'm talking right.
Didn't you have an email?
And then, and basically, we probably would not do that. We would run it and tie it to the sewer line. Right out the street out there. Because I think it's not very, doesn't have a lot of slope on it. It'd probably be.
We have trouble right now, even from B Hall and IT, that's the line around the Ranger, underneath the Ranger, and out to that one manhole. If you use that same system and tie a couple of clothes washers in on it, showers, 3 or 4 or 5 toilets, however many.
Forget it.
I think we're gonna end up with trouble. I just don't think
But
that's.
so to put utilities for the concession on the south end of the field, getting utilities over there is gonna cost another $100,000
I think,
potentially.
you know, I'd say 75. Because basically you're gonna have to run over to the west, and then you're gonna have to run to the north.
So you have 100 here, 100 there.
And we're probably, probably,
Well,
what, a 3-inch water
well,
line?
that's to get it from here to here instead of it already, the water, that's just water getting over there.
How much is the cost if you just have it on the north end? How much are you gonna have to pay for that right now?
I guess we're saying you might save 75,000.
So if we put the concession on the south, it's an extra 75K.
So, 200.
Did we, when we were going back and forth, and we had talked about possibly looking on the south end at that water line, was that even feasible to save a little bit of money? When we were talking about over there in the PAC area?
I don't see that being a lot of difference.
Okay.
Because we have to be going across the street
Okay,
and under the street and around the tennis courts.
okay.
Basically, you're looking at new utilities on the north and south of this building.
Yeah. Right now, there's really not enough utilities with what you'll have. Everything's been coming from the east. Probably should have been.
I mean, we was over there last Thursday and something, I think. They just have trouble over there all the time. And it drops P-Hall.
Well, when they built that school, there weren't any utilities to the west.
Art rooms, that seat between the.
There wasn't anything there.
All that goes west, out into that little, guard area on the west side of the building. It ties in and goes to another little manhole up at the coach's parking lot, which is trash. And then it picks up there and goes kind of under the range we're at, out to the south side of it, and it comes back around the front.
Got a lot of traveling.
So if you put it on the red, where are utilities coming from? We're not tying into the old system, are we?
When you put it where?
On the red, like the south side of the red.
And if you probably went over there, you'd probably go back kind of where it's from. You're talking about the field house?
Yes.
One of the proposed
Attached to the
ideas.
existing building?
Yeah.
I imagine it would go over to that manhole.
So then with those utilities, hold
No, we're not going to the manhole.
You have to create a new one
The
anyway.
location of the field house.
We'd probably go out west on both sides to the sewer. I think the drainage is gonna be the most cost on the south side for like kind of stormwater grading, dirt work. And then it being separate. So I think we're saying south side, 7,500K more, separate building, 7,500K more. And those are the two conceptions.
And you don't have any concerns, one of the things I had on my list, you just brought up. Drainage coming off of the track and the football field, it all comes down that south side. You don't have any concerns getting around a new building?
It's less that and more keeping the drainage of the new concession stand off of the tennis courts. Getting kind of good flooding up that area. You'll have quite a bit of drainage from the football field already underground.
And then all ends up over there on the northeast corner of the tennis courts, out in the parking lot.
Southeast, right?
Southeast, yeah.
My page view.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. You were down there at the south end
To the road towards the
Yeah.
senior center. And then
Yeah.
And it's like 8 foot difference, right, Isaac? From northwest high school, north southeast high school.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Mhm.
And I think we'd be shooting to try to, if you put the concession on the south end, we'd be shooting to have the finished floor of the concession, you know, at least 6 inches, not 12 inches higher than the track.
this is,
And if a building was on the south end, I'm just thinking about drainage off the football field. We would be able to handle all of the drainage coming off that football field because that's currently the way it drains.
And it drains with some underground pipe that goes out through that.
Goes into that flume.
It goes into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It dumps out on the corner.
But there is some water, looks like it comes from the west side through there. We would have to push all that water to the west side of the tennis courts and get that back over to the street if we require to build a little, to grade it to make sure we get full around the side.
So the square footage that we have for the one on the south is 2,200 on the section. The one that was previously built that we had been looking at on the north end, how many square foot was in it? Because we actually had room set aside for the HUD. In that concession.
I think originally we had about 16,000 square feet figure for everything.
Right, but I'm just talking when we did the concession on the north end with HUD. You know, you had drawn some plans up there, I don't have it with me. And remember how many square foot?
The HUD is the retail area.
Yes.
That's right now. That's in a separate building. It's like a little barn type of thing.
We've gone through so many
Oh,
drawings.
I know, I know, that,
I mean,
I was just curious
And I
because,
think if we divide them up, which I think that's where we're going, I would shoot for 2,200 square feet for the concession and let 12 and a half thousand square feet for the field house.
the hut noon is inside of the new concession stand.
okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see the front of the concession stand here, and then right to the left of it, and still built in is the hut. So it's gonna face out, people can buy, right beside it, people can buy food. So it's where you see storage at the bottom left, that's the hut.
When you talk about 2,200 square feet is your estimate for concession.
We did do another drawing. I think this drawing is actually under 2,200 square.
Because this was 3,300. So.
Yeah, like this one right here. And I just printed these out this morning, so.
And we kill our trees.
Wes, how, and I don't know, we haven't done this much, but, this was sold to the community as getting new parking. It's part of what they voted on.
That's not that question of mine yet. That
Okay.
was part of it. That was part of our $4.5 million over there.
So I don't want to take what they said, what we gave them, and just completely flip it and go, thank you guys for voting for it, but now we're going to do something different.
Where was the parking going to be?
All down the west
The
side.
west side, all new, where all that dirt is now, people just pull up there west of the field, park there, and, it's
Yeah.
muddy half the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Right in there.
Okay.
And to the west, and the biggest area was to the west of where, if the field house is on the north side. To the west of there were one single row and a double row. Well, there's 3 rows of car parking up there.
Just there on the northwest side of the
It
field.
was pretty.
So taking out the shot ring.
It was 800-ish.
All that stuff was gonna go away.
Can I ask this question?
Then we'd have to
That was a
relocate all
part of this
that.
Conversation. Where is there room on the west end? You're
There's
going right
not.
up against the street. There's not any room.
Where everybody
What was
parks
on
in the
the
dirt.
original was
I know.
Paving that.
paved parking here,
So we can.
single parking coming along here, and then they opened up this area. If this was the building, this area right in here was all opened up for parking.
So where that
as well.
12-foot ring in would be gone.
What if we talked with the church and see if they'd go in on us with doing the parking lot right there?
Again, not what was sold to the public.
It's a parking lot,
Yeah.
but what was sold to the
But
public?
the church
what-
owns that. We
what-
can't spend money on the church. The church's
This.
lot. I mean, that's not.
On their property.
Yeah.
Yes, right there.
Take ways around it.
So did we say we were eliminating the parking lot by doing this plan?
I don't
have any monies left
I
over.
don't think we absolutely wouldn't know the answer to that question until we at this point, we don't really have a design on a concession stand or square footage. We don't really have a design on a field house or square footage. So I don't know if this time we sit there and say that through.
But if we base it on the numbers that you gave us a while ago at 2,200 square feet at $300 a square foot, and then doing the same thing for the field house with 12 to 13,000 square foot we've used up. I mean, even if we make some cuts, which I don't want it to be cheap either, we want some quality in what we build.
I like the idea of the two on either end, but I don't want to not be able to do it right because we're cutting corners.
I agree.
Yeah,
What if we're gonna
pretty
have to
early in
spend
the process.
10% just to move some water lines of what the thing costs? That's a lot of money.
So, so going back to the very beginning, I think our first, would you agree? I think our first thing that we talked about is, you have to rule out, are you gonna put a concession stand and a field house on the north end together? For safety issues, I think you say no, you cannot do that. So then your next option is, where are you gonna go? And if you wanna go to the rep, my opinion has been this entire time, why are we gonna build onto stuff that's not very good right now? Like, we're gonna add a brand new building onto stuff that's falling apart. And so.
Because it's not gonna be falling apart after this whole remodel.
Have we looked at cost on that? Building something there next to
That's what I'd like to know too.
Okay.
Because it might be the same. I mean, and then you say, okay, well, it's gonna be better off down on the.
Run to the west, isn't that right, Peyton?
Yeah.
Didn't you say the utilities are still gonna have to be run?
Yeah. Yeah, he said
Yeah,
that.
I think it's a matter of quality, not just.
Because
it's.
You're still
So
gonna
far
tear
out,
it all
yeah.
out and start with fresh
The
foundation.
true line's pretty shallow.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, he said they would still go east.
Yeah, looks good.
If my vote's for anything, I think you book in the field and you put a concession stand and a field house over here, north and south, in my opinion. I mean, we're gonna be the guys that are gonna be in there working every single day, in terms of the field house.
I like the concession stand on the south too, if we ever redo our tennis courts. Then you have quick access to that. Bathrooms, so if we ever do a tournament, you have bathrooms plus the concession. Yeah, we have concessions.
Not argue, that'd be a good place for parking for the football field,
What is that?
Good drawing of that.
where the tennis courts are now.
Looks like it's just.
Since they're gonna have to be pretty much gutted.
So
Yeah,
if,
they're
Interesting what you're
asphalt.
saying.
Architect just told us you gotta have concrete, so.
so if and that's down the road.
Yeah.
But if we wanna move the tennis courts, I have wanted to move the tennis courts back by the Rangerette. And then you're saying exactly what you're talking about. That opens up, we still have the concession stand already there. And then you have a parking lot that could be built right behind the concession stand.
Find $500,000 somewhere.
What cost savings do we have by not separating the bathrooms, visitors versus home? And just making it where there's doors on both sides, so either, they can come in from either direction for the men's and women's.
Yeah, the utilities would be some,
Right,
and then you're talking about you would eliminate extra walls,
right. So you could say.
probably two fronts versus looking at your two fronts.
The away teams were using JD lockers in here or not?
Yeah, but what you were just saying, find $500,000, when are we gonna go down that road with the tennis court? Like,
Yeah, they're gonna have to be addressed.
We can't even host a tournament right
That
now.
wasn't part of the original proposal. You know,
No,
we have to
no,
be
it's
careful
not.
here on the bond. We've already got an approval. So.
On that, but I'm just, at
No,
some
wait a
point,
minute, at some point,
we
gonna have to go
can't, we
down
can't
that.
host tennis matches right now. We barely can play on them and practice on them. Like, at some point, we're gonna have to address that. I know it's not a part of the bond, but
It's gonna
they're
be
in
somewhere
bad
after
shape.
buses and teacher pay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, let's hope.
Yeah.
Let's hope Tuesday.
One of our meetings.
Yeah, so we gotta get through that.
We got a long
gotta jump
list.
that hurdle before we worry about the tennis courts, unfortunately.
Tomorrow.
So from a consensus standpoint, Brett, roll this back into one big ball here. What I'm hearing, and somebody throw rocks at me if I'm not hearing it correctly. What I'm hearing is the board's consensus is concession stand on the south, field house on the north. It's a matter of size and dollars spent. And the desire is to be able to retain some semblance of the parking that was promised in the bond. I've rolled everybody's comments all into one.
Well, if we're gonna do that, we have to figure out, if we do this, something's gonna have to be given up, right? I mean, some kind of, I don't know if it's a necessity out there, but like you said, some in the flooring, something in the.
When we initiated the initial bond, did we also promise an indoor? Like that's already got happened?
No.
Was it?
No.
Okay.
Indoor was a discussion
Okay,
about
gotcha.
4 years ago that, 4 years ago with
Okay.
James Morellis and Kurt Havather had put
Right.
together some drawings on that. And we just kind of looked at it to see
Right.
what the cost would be.
I got you.
It was on a wish list and we actually
It
took
was.
that piece of the bond out of there.
It made the
Yeah,
waiver.
or originally,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
We actually had done some estimates on it, had it on a list and it not taken off.
So is that big parking then, that big parking lot? Up north, the northwest? I'm not talking about the dirt on the south, where there's a big square up north, would that be what we're cutting out?
The shot put arena right there? Yes.
No, it was actually a little bit to the north.
And I'm just on the other side of it.
It's in the grass, right there.
On
It's
the outside of
in
the
the
fence.
grass.
Yeah. So if you're talking field house where the concession stand is, where was the location of the parking lot?
Just straight west of it,
Right there.
between it and the building.
Or the shot ring.
Yes.
Basically,
Sorry.
from here back to here and then single down here.
All the way down,
Left all of this,
even south of the bleachers.
even to the west of the bleacher. And then once we got south of the bleachers, then it spread back out where there was, I'm trying to pull up my email on that, where there was a row up against the fence and there was another double row behind. It was pretty tight in there to be able to get, they wouldn't be able to put anything other than a small car in there.
So would this be built to where eventually someday you could go off the back of it with an indoor and tie onto it, I guess? Is that?
And we would do it with a.
If we don't, the only thing I proposed, but I don't think we'd be able to do, was to put a back parking lot and a circle drive for buses to get in and out of there easier, but I don't think that could be added.
That shows the field house right here.
I'll just be honest with you guys, I've been. Is that something that would have to be okayed by the city to be able to do?
Just up against the road?
Yeah, okay. The highway, that's all city road. I don't know what, evidently the utilities are on the other side of the building.
Well, there's a lot of electrical underneath that too.
Okay, so. You'd be driving down different ends. I don't know what
Sorry,
I
slow
don't know what you'd have to do through the city.
Are we gonna be able to get a
One thing I was gonna mention is the schedule. People have been talking about wanting to get a new concession stand built by next football season. So if we're down here, the concession. So we're right in here, say for the project. That's finishing, trying to finish by around the 1st of August of next year. And so then we'd be here with the design phase, which we're trying to finish that up, trying to finish that one up by the end.
It is
It's a
right
couple
over there.
months.
It's their easement.
Probably doable, then we would bid it out, and then
It would just
construction
be there, correct.
would be here, let's say.
But that was one of our flyers.
Yeah, I was pushing to that because I think the community needs to see something visual.
So. and
Part of the
if you go
sales
to
point,
the,
I agree.
And if you go to the field house, we're down here, I'm saying we can try to finish it by August of 26, time for football. So that we have the design, bid out, and then
I've never seen
you got 14 months of construction. So.
And that's a city easement
This is
there. so
separate
we have to get
from,
them
from,
to- what's on.
basically, I guess this would be the concession,
So it left it.
and this would be the field house.
Well, so if you're redoing utilities, you're redoing most of that's gonna push your schedule back.
I don't think, as far as, we do not have enough time to get it designed on the field house and get it built in time for football next year. There's not enough time for that. But there's enough time to get the concession done. But if you're really concerned about budgets and doing it all at the same time, they need to be designed and bid at the same time. And instead of trying to get the concession done in time for football season next year.
So basically, we need to make a decision on concession where we need it to go. So you guys can start building.
If you want it built by the time football season next year.
Because if we try to build at the same time, what do we do with the concession stands as the field house is being built? If it's on the north end, where does it go? Because we'd have it torn down by that point, right? So then we'd have a bind in itself trying to do that.
You'd be doing something else with your
Right, yes, sir. So we probably need to get one done and then go to the next. Right. Right.
So what kind of square footage, I wonder, could we get off of the field house, weight room stuff being off the red instead of it being by itself?
As far as cost per square foot, I don't think it's gonna change that much. And so I think the square footage would probably still be still in that, between 12 and 13,000. Unless it could save square footage and bring it down.
Sure. Okay.
That would, as far as cost was, that'd be a part of it. If when we got to design it, you could actually.
So what do you think? So if we do something like that, and I know phase 3, and this is, Wes, you're gonna tell me I'm off topic a little bit, but how do you envision right now where the weights are once the new weight facility gets built? So right now where the current weight's set, what are you envisioning, or what are you thinking that space would be?
Somebody had made the decision to make that a storage, I believe, is what somebody had already made that decision. That's what I was told.
If it wasn't that, what would be your opinion?
I still think we need to keep a split weight room. I think we still need to have some sort of weight facility.
So you don't think we could expand the girls' locker room from that wall?
We could look at it, but I had asked this, and that's if they would give me this. I could move our current weight room into the old wood shop classroom that's supposed to not be used. Not wood shop, sorry, in welding. We could move our weights and have a weight room there, and we'd have basically 2 weight rooms, and then you could expand the locker room if you wanted.
Because right now we're concerned, I mean, I think if you can disagree with
what we were doing, was
spaces
expanding the
Yes.
girls' locker room.
and
That's
the
why we're
girls'
coming out
locker rooms
into the red.
awful as
No,
far as
that's
what we
space.
gotta
So-
be careful
Talk
how
about
much we come out
title
to the red.
So-
Because if we
So, I mean,
all the
that,
stuff
to
that
me,
holds the
it just makes sense on the south
basketball
end of that
goals up
girls'
there,
current
that's what
varsity
they're
locker
wanting
room.
to
So,
go
like,
to.
Right now,
So then we're gonna have to
football
buy
is about to
basketball
end.
goals and all that stuff.
We've got to move all of our
So that's
football
what I'm
boys
saying, we
out
need
of the
to know
locker
what
room
we're
in
doing
order
in
to
phase
get
3
basketball.
before.
We've got to move all of our JV freshman football players out of a locker room in order to give soccer a locker room.
Right.
And so we're just continuously doing that all
Well,
year.
and that's why, and I know that I don't want to jump into phase 3, but if we can kind of get an idea of what some of that space could be used for, and that's why I was talking about the coaches' offices that aren't really, they don't make sense to me right there, where they're at, and utilize that space for locker room space
Right.
to be able to give some more space to our
Right.
kids
Right.
at the end of the day
Yeah.
for locker room
Like,
space.
really, you're gonna be talking about basketball and, football. But football's going outside, so really on the boys' side, it'd be pretty much basketball only. On the girls' side, you're gonna have to have basketball, volleyball. And we'd really like to have volleyball, basketball separated. Just because right now the kids don't have their own space. You know, like the volleyball team is in there and then all the basketball players are somewhere else. And then, like he said, we flip-flop, right? So then it just creates
Well,
issues.
and I know with the girls' locker room, like, they're sharing it with cross country and they're doing
Right.
some other
Yeah,
people
so-
that are in and out weightlifting.
Yeah, volleyball's in there
Right.
and cross is in there right now.
Right.
And the varsity locker room.
Right.
So then when during basketball, it's basketball girls are in there and then powerlifting's in there and then soccer. So you have 3 sports trying to operate out of one locker room. You're correct, yeah.
So I have an idea. To answer your question, I have an idea of where another weight room should go. If I could get the okay on that, which would then in turn open up all of that over there where you see the current weight room to be used for whatever we need it to be used for.
I just think that's important to the conversation if we're talking about space and utilizing it for refs and for our kiddos. I think it's important.
We currently, so like Friday night, we're gonna have refs come in. We currently have to put them in our girls' off-season locker room. With our new plan, there will be a refs hospitality room. But you now at 4:30 or 5 o'clock on a Friday have to push kids out in order to allow our refs to have somewhere to go. And then with showers and all that stuff. It's just, it's strange. It's we need more room.
Basketball wise, you're talking refs, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because now you're putting them in the long hallway that you were talking about, which we utilize for our soccer coaches because we had no other place to put them.
Right.
So they're changing in there. Well, then when you get Miss Callie from Guyman that comes down and she's a female, we're not putting her in there with them to change. So now she goes into David's office. And so now David's getting kicked out of his office so that she can have that in order to have a bathroom and change. And then sometimes we'll put them in the JV locker room and then try to operate the JV basketball kids out of the varsity locker room. So it's just not, it's a lot of planning and a lot of getting people shift.
When games start at 4 o'clock and those officials are there in the
Yeah,
JV
now
locker
it's a
room and those
nightmare.
kids have been outside
Yes.
working out and they got to
Yeah.
come change.
So when that happens, they change in my office.
Yeah.
And then walk through there, and then usually by the time that my game starts, flip flop and let them go in that long hallway. Correct.
So you're good and quiet. What are you thinking?
I'm going to remain quiet, that's what I'm thinking.
So if we, this
So shy, I was getting
this coaching or this refs hospitality room will be utilized year round for football, for basketball, for soccer, in terms of just referees. And now they've got a bathroom. Now they've got a shower
You talking about in the field house or over here?
in the field house. There's a ref hospitality room in there.
So you're gonna have refs over here going into the walk over to the gym at halftime and go back and forth?
Basketball.
Until the
Basketball.
other one's redesigned, until phase 3 is done.
Throwing this out there, one of the things that I think Josh brought up, if we are going to put the field house on the north, I think what a good idea he had was to create a traffic lane that goes behind, connects here, so that visitors' buses can be parked back here rather than over here in this parking lot. And I don't know how much that would be. And that's if it's on the, if we were to do it on the north side.
And then if we had it on beside the Rangerette, the buses could come through and park between the stands and the Rangerette to get them away from everybody also,
Like
right in that area somewhere. Yeah, and then exit out that parking lot.
I don't think you could pull through. Like you're just talking, pull into that parking lot because there's that big concrete drainage ditch.
Well, I mean,
Middle of it, yeah.
the road would be on this side of it to get out to the parking lot, but something to that effect.
you were talking about building one here.
Yeah,
Build over the ditch.
and then, cause like where that triangle sticks out into the coach's parking lot, just take that away from more parking for them and stuff like that as well.
Mr. Brown, guidance, please.
But it's gonna cost almost 10% more of what the concession stand's gonna cost if we put it on the south side of the field compared to the north, no matter where we put the field house. I'd rather put that 10% into a building.
I'm confused on that because I feel like it's gonna be the same. Because we're talking about not putting the concession stand and field house together. So now you're still, like the deal of utilities is out the window in my mind because you have to run new utilities to both if we're separating. Am I correct?
You're just saying that you think we can get more bang for our buck going south of
I
the
think we can
red than doing it south of the football field.
Correct.
Is that
I think we can get more square footage
Okay.
building south of the Rangerette with the field house and staying north with the concession
But we're
stand.
still taking utilities from, if we're building south of Ranch Rate, utilities are still going to.
Still going
And you're still gonna
west.
have to knock out that parking lot,
Still
right?
gonna have to
I mean,
make
you're gonna have to knock
utilities.
out
Spending
concept.
$75K, no matter. $60,000.
I don't think there's electrical out there.
On the south side.
They're saying that 75,000 is gonna have to be redirected somewhere else if we put it on the side of the range road. We're gonna wind up spending it elsewhere.
I've watched school boards quite a bit over the years, and I would say the location, with that kind of cost, which isn't that high overall, but the location, what people would be happiest with in the long run is what would, again, what people would really like.
So are we saying we wanna try to make the people happy? Because I'm almost positive the people would be happy with the field house on the north and the concession on the south.
But whatever decision that is.
I think that is it.
We'll be glad to build it where we're at.
As far as weight room and powerlifting competitions go, though, if you have access to the huge parking lot that we already have existing, compared to a small one that we would build up in the corner away from everything else that we have.
Well, they're still gonna use that parking lot.
They would still use that parking lot, they'd still use the teacher's parking lot that's back there. I mean, there's still enough parking back there for all that.
Well, right, but we also have a $2 million cement parking lot right there.
900,000.
Yeah. That'll
He's
still
talking about
get
today's
used.
dollars.
It's still being used.
Inflation.
I'm not gonna justify moving a building over there for one sport either, and I like your idea, but I mean, I just feel like cross-country, track, football are gonna benefit better, probably being on the
Soccer.
north and the eye appeal of it, and soccer, like you're gonna come right out of that field house, right out into your practice field on the soccer practice field, rather than get your stuff, carry your cones across to, I just think the way it works and the way it flows, if you build a field house on the north side, it's just easier. With the exception of powerlifting. Like I agree with you on powerlifting, that parking lot.
I'm not saying one way or the other, but you also have that drainage flume, coach's parking lot, right behind the weight room, out to the main parking lot.
Yeah.
Would have to either be covered or something. You're gonna have a bunch of people.
Liability.
back and forth.
Still great.
So do we,
Go ahead.
so I think one of the issues too we need to figure out is the right of way that the city owns, because Alan mentioned that he thinks it runs along that ditch up to the fence line
On the west side.
on the west side.
Along here. That's all city right away. It's all
And so
city.
if that's city right of way, I think that probably needs to be the number one thing we get answered to from the city.
Typically, if it's a city right away, and you'd still be doing their parking.
Right.
Yeah, but
But to be able.
they wouldn't have any
They wouldn't
issues
have any problems.
usually with paving it or whatever
There's a
we're gonna
big
do.
transformer thing over there too. That
Yeah.
we look into.
What can we use our bond interest for? Does that give us a little bit more cushion there? It should, with rates.
As of right now, we're at 1.4, and so I mean, that's when you pay, and also into projections of what.
But that's on total, right? Not just on the sports part.
Right, that's on total.
That's on what we've collected so
Yes.
far.
So will it have to be
You
split?
have to split it up as a percentage.
Bond
Of
interest.
this
can only be
4
used for
million?
M&O, correct?
No,
No,
bonds can only be used on this
Bond.
project.
The project,
The interest.
just on this project.
Yes.
I thought the interest was separate, that it could only be used for M&O.
I think we thought that at first, but I think we got some clarification.
No, I think it has to be used on this project.
Okay.
But it's what I'm saying is I don't think you could take the total and say, okay, we're gonna use this on the sports side. I think it's probably the interest earned on
On
4
the-
million of it.
4 million.
Yeah, go here, that goes there. I don't mind looking at, well, we're gonna have a little extra funds. I hate to get early into the project where you're already starting to spend your surplus.
But I'm just
That was
saying, if we could do
dangerous.
what these guys want and still do a parking lot,
Well, I think you have to do the
If there's
parking.
some
I think you've already said this to the public.
I
I think
did.
you have to do the parking lot.
You bet. I agree. And I don't want to cut too many corners on doing something on the north end and something on the
So
south.
cost is still an issue.
Cost is an issue. You can't be approved for $500,000 house and go buy $1 million house. It doesn't work.
That's so. I've been all over the map on this one. So I mean, and every one of you guys, as you guys have come to talk to me, has come with good ideas, and every one of you that has come with ideas, I think your ideas have been incorporated pretty well in whatever we do. So, and like I said, I've been all over the map, and whatever you guys want to do as a board, what decision you make, we will get done. We need, I think, to give them some direction, and that's something we have to settle right now in this meeting about where this is going to be, so that they can begin looking at it, design it. Like I said, I've gone back and forth. I didn't initially like the idea of the South. I haven't necessarily been opposed to over by the Rangerette. I'll just have to say, standing here in this moment and having listened to all the issues, I think I would recommend this to you. That would be my recommendation. Now, if this is not what the board wants, we'll do whatever the board wants. But there's a couple things that some of the games that I've been to, including Levelland last week, had the stadium field. They had a separate field house and concession stand. And it gave it a stadium feel about it. Things were separated so that everything flowed a little bit better. I have to be honest. And probably one of the things that I walk into in most of the construction jobs, and I haven't been over a lot, but looking at it from the school side, I'm always thinking of how is the crowd going to flow? How are the kids going to flow? Is there going to be obstacles? See this one as having less obstacles. I see it it's not a perfect plan because we do need parking over here. I mean, first football game I went to, I said, we've got to have some parking on the home side. So we do need parking over there. But I think overall, if I'm thinking to the future and how this is going to be looked at, I think one of the best looks we're going to have as Perryton ISD and people coming to our field would probably be this plan.
So how far down the road can you guys get on that, something like that plan right there before you go, we can't make budget?
As far as like guarantees, there's not.
Yeah, and to figure out if can we do both those in some kind of parking? I don't know. I think it just scares me to say, okay, this is what we're doing, and then you start bidding this deal out and go, oh my gosh, it's going to be $6 million. We can't do it. Now we're back to square one and going, what the heck do we do now?
So let's take that scenario, and let's say that we build one on the south and do one on the north, and we haven't got to the parking lot, but we used up all our money. What would the parking lot cost outside of that today?
We had the parking lot estimated, in $700,000.
So you're not going to make that an interest on $4 million.
So so on the other idea that's been thrown about, if you put a field house on the Rangerette, we still have to build a concession stand. We still have two separate buildings. I mean, so I don't understand if we go north and south, or if we go Rangerette and we go concession, those are two separate buildings. We're going to be doing the same thing. So like if we're going to justify, we don't want to do this plan because we're worried about money and parking, but we're going to go ahead and build on the Rangerette and build a new concession stand. It's the same thing.
Well, it's not because the other one's connected to the main building.
You have to build two buildings. You have to build two buildings.
You could still come up short and have to cut the weight.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You're still building two new buildings.
If you get a massive hurricane and the price of lumber goes like it did 4 years ago,
Exactly.
So I'm just saying, as I've sat here and listened to us go, like 2 new buildings are going to be built in this deal. along with the parking lot. Like,
Yeah.
and what Mr. Brown is saying, I think in terms of what we're trying to do, like my overall plan of this entire stadium is this is the best plan to allow me kind of, there's a lot more I'm gonna add hopefully down the road, but to get me started here, this would be the plan.
So what are our greatest unknowns here on this scenario right here? Is the utilities, is it, you gotta,
The drainage on the south
Drainage
end
probably
would be
on the
my
south
biggest
end.
concern.
Probably the drainage.
so I think, see, I think we're
I'd
a
also
little
say-
bit ahead of ourselves here, where you're looking at where your actual choke points are. I've got no problem with this. But
But you gotta tell them,
hand-waving-
run this way.
we're-
Go figure it out, you know? Do we wanna, is that where we wanna go, is looking at doing something on the south end?
But also-
So let's get them going and figure out what.
A concession
Well,
stand on the south end of the field
Pre-design can we do?
with windows open all the time.
Utilities and drainage would be.
North wind coming in there during football and track season.
One thing we've looked at is
Go
the
level in, go
elevations.
border, they're doing it.
We've looked at the elevations
I've just lived in
around
the
that
country too
area.
long.
And I, you know, and I don't think, you know, if you look, you know, at the elevations, we put the building right here. You know, I think to get this, to redo this dirt work around here to push that water around the west side of the tennis courts, I think is doable. And it doesn't seem like a crazy amount of
North
work.
there or?
Where are we looking? Oh, no, there's a track coming around there and that's
Yeah,
tennis
this
courts
is
you can see
tennis
and that's
courts
where,
right
right? Okay.
In the elevations, you can see there's about about a foot fall between kind of the corner of the tennis courts and kind of the middle of the track. And so we're gonna be building this area up. And so basically, we gotta make sure that this water will come right here to the street. And it looks like it's doable. So, and I don't think it'll be a crazy amount of work to make that happen. But I think
Give me a definition of crazy and I'll go with you.
yes.
Wes, your thoughts?
I walked into this meeting really not in favor on the south because of my thoughts about double of our utilities to be able to set up into there. But hearing that we don't necessarily have the utilities from Alan and from the Houston crew, that we don't have the utilities to be able to run in the existing, we're going to have to go across there anyway. So there's not a lot of difference in that. I agree with everything everybody had said about flow and keeping the separation. My issue was the cost of spending, and I was saying 100 or 125. It's less than what I was thinking to be able to run those utilities across there. So if it was a motion on the floor and I was voting on, I'd be voting on concession on the south, field house on the north, and keeping in mind keeping parking within our mindset as well be on the athletic property lawn.
So what happens if you can do both of those and you can't do anything about the park?
We come up with a way to do the parking through other means.
Okay.
That's in some way. And perhaps parking ends up being, gosh, we're not going to be able to asphalt it, but we can make a parking lot that's not perfect, but it's a step with a good base that we can park on for a few years until, do the same thing we do with the football field. That we put back 40, 50 a year to be able to handle it in 8 or 10 years when it's at end of life. Same thing on a parking project back there, to be able to, lay 100 back a year and then be able to take care of it. I think it's very important that we fulfill what we proposed on the bond issue, but we also have a triage of what is most important here. And what is most important is the concession to the field house parking as a very, very close number 3, but still not.
On safety of the students and officials.
That's triage 1 and 2 for me.
Yep.
1 and 1A. Other thoughts?
I don't like building a whole nother facility out there, but I'll voice my opinion.
And I think if, we move forward doing the concession on the south end, try to keep it conservative, on the size and even the height in the front, make it nice. But don't really go over the top on anything.
How tall you want that kicking into that south wind, field goals into that south wind? Depends on which way you're going.
Steve's done a good job on all this planning.
Okay.
He's done on all this, on all the design. We'll be all right. If I can try to shoot over the concession stand, it might be all right.
How much room is there between the track and the fence of the track and the tennis court?
Yeah, how deep is that? Back, is that this one right here on the, is that this drawing here?
Probably not real.
18 foot.
They went and measured that off. They said we could get it done.
Okay.
They went and
Which
planned
one?
all this already.
Let's see, I wanted to know how much room there was from here to the fence.
I'm thinking
How wide was it from the, we measured that last week?
Yeah.
What was the dimension between the tennis court fence and in the track?
Peyton's making a custom scale for us right now. We've got a pretty good 100-yard marker.
47 feet, 57 feet?
You guys have a color drawing like this of the proposed concession stand yet?
Which one?
Yeah, but the front of it, like the elevations and the.
A little bit of color version of that.
33.6, and the drawing you just gave us is 32.4.
I guess I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't have that. Is that the field house?
Yeah.
See, I don't have that one.
Put in the back wall of the concession stand has the back wall of the tennis court.
20 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
Trade me, coach.
So that back wall of the concession stand on the tennis court side, if we did do something on the south end, is it gonna have doors to open up the concession stand later?
I think.
Not the way this is laid out.
Not the way it's drawn, but, the door needs to be in there.
I don't think we want to do it.
But someone that's getting
We're gonna
concession,
do it all on the side and on the front.
but someone's
Yeah.
gonna come around this way, they're
Yeah.
not gonna be in here,
Yes.
getting concession.
Yeah.
That's in the middle.
Yeah, it's gonna be blocked.
So is that 33 foot?
Yeah.
That's 33.6, this is 32 foot.
If you look at from the track, it's
On this drawing.
42.
Not that drawing.
So we'd actually
The
be
small
taking
one.
that, we'd actually be taking that sidewalk out.
One's better working. That one right there.
Oh, this.
So what was your question on this one?
Well, I mean, if that's 42 foot now?
Yeah, sorry, I measured to the sidewalk actually.
Okay.
This shows reworking the sidewalk.
Well, that's what I was curious about, just how much room there's gonna be between, I mean, with as many people as go to the concession stand during halftime, if there's 42, if there's 8 foot between
If
The drawing that we have.
the fence,
Yeah, it's like 13.
Chad,
Well, I
I've
mean,
thought
if this
about
is
this.
32, so there'd be 10 foot from,
But part of that 32 is the front awning,
I've
isn't
thought
it?
about this a little bit, just since if this does get a little tight, what I would suggest is that we build an S railing here so that the line gets spread out across rather
Curves
than
through.
everybody backed up like this.
Mhm.
And then, you have an opening here, you just go next window kind of thing.
They really have railings that you can do temporarily.
Yeah.
With stuff, they can use string stuff.
Right, on,
Yeah.
when we're not doing a major football game, we pull them out and everyone can line up.
They change it however you want.
Yes.
Time, by the way, thank you. Spent a lot of time.
Yeah. It's all, we should give Steve all.
And
all
Alan,
the
Steve,
credit.
thank you.
We were thanking you for your design.
From the.
Oh, he was asking, hey, whenever we talked about that specific thing, didn't we talk about the front of the concession stand as part of that measurement? Like what's gonna hang over and cover our people is part of that measurement?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're saying 32 feet, but how much of that is the front covering of the
10
concession
feet.
stand?
I think 10 feet from
Right.
there to the track.
Right,
So there to the concessions gonna be like.
yeah, the building's a little over 27.
yes, and then you got the front cover.
Nine.
I've got 37 feet from the track fence to the tennis court.
Yeah.
37.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Boy, a couple of those.
Yeah, right.
You go to the west end, you're gonna be,
You're
and you
playing
play a game the next
different
time on
game.
the east end, and you're gonna be going, what the heck is going on? That's winds out of the north.
That's why I'd like to do those tennis courts, because that's the perfect place for parking for the football field. That's one reason why we don't like it switched. Because if we're gonna have to redo the tennis courts eventually one day,
Yes, it'll be rough. Yes.
see, so there's a lot of savings right there.
You're good. Keep walking into you.
I mean, then you got parking.
Okay.
You just need to.
That's pretty good.
Because if we're gonna have to redo them eventually,
It's not a bad idea.
What'd you say, Joe? I'm sorry.
if we have to redo the tennis courts eventually one day, that would be
Somewhere else.
that's the biggest area to put a parking space for the football field.
We don't have to put a base there.
And it's already made
We could
almost.
probably, we could pull the nets off of this and park on it right now.
Yeah, because it looks like that asphalt's back there, which is not asphalt. And it's got a baseball. So it would probably make a really decent parking lot.
And because,
You would paint it black and paint stripes.
and like even if we were to be able to add the parking behind the stands, if you've ever parked back there, we don't need any more people back there. It is a nightmare.
Yeah, I really look for most of the parking being south side, north side. The ones behind the stand, I'm not sure that that's really feasible. Yeah, that's just a single row along there. It's really not a good way to be able to do it. So.
Seems like at every game they announce somebody's blocked in. You know, there's no stripes. If you had this kind of car, come move your car.
That's it.
But if we could save
The
300,000
city
or
owned this little
400,000 on
square down
parking,
here
in the
by the
parking
tennis
lot,
courts.
turning that into the parking
The
lot.
dirt?
Yeah.
No, that's school property. I think,
Location.
isn't that dirt? That's school property, yes? No, to the
That's
east.
city.
It's
That
rock.
is city? Oh, I thought that was still school.
No, it's
property.
school.
We dump all our water out on city.
Okay.
Yeah, that's city property.
20 feet from that drainage.
I got you. Because I would say, why don't we just utilize that, but, you know, it's the city.
Okay.
City.
I did not
City, and
realize.
they've got an agreement with Frank Phillips because they do a lot of their trucking,
Right.
backing,
That's right.
practice,
That's
that
the
kind of thing.
practice.
I did not realize that was city.
It's all under.
Yep, our concrete goes into our line.
Okay.
No, it's actually about 20 feet to the east of that concrete.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Wes is the dirt in the southeast corner, the southwest corner of this picture.
That's rock. It's rock.
Yeah, go back to actually blow it back up again. Is that part of the McGarrett purchase?
No,
No.
Okay.
It's across the road.
We had talked about this too. If we do ever get the chance to redo our tennis courts, that room could be used to build 2 more.
It's like.
And you'd almost get a full,
I thought it was
like in terms of
down in here.
a regulation tennis court to host a tournament, we're not at that size yet. If you had 2 more slabs right there, you would be at full regulations in terms of size.
Okay.
We own
That's just something to
Where
keep
that-
in mind
we
too.
own how much?
We're talking tennis now.
Jeff, where that curve is right there,
Across the street west.
but
Property too.
it's to the southwest of the curve.
Yeah.
We own that McGarrett purchase.
Right.
And that was
That's
across
not-
the other side of the street.
That's not it right
That's
there.
not it.
That's not it. Where that curve is,
Or is it south?
it's southwest of it.
But that would be a place.
What else do y'all need from us?
I know. I voted for it.
Yes.
One of the few.
What do you need?
But I voted
Talk
What I'm
about it.
hearing, what I'm hearing is we need to move forward with designing the concession stand on the south side of the football field around 2,200 square feet.
This is very,
And do it, and we will work with Greg Brown's direction on the floor plan of that.
No
We will
reconsidering
be,
after the parking though.
what's that?
No reconsidering after the possible parking.
Oh, I think the, parking's probably
It could be on the table.
A future conversation is still on the table.
We'll do that when we get.
Well, I mean, he's talking about using,
As utilizing that, yeah, that's.
No.
he was talking about that.
And when we do it, I'll try to come back with as many options as possible.
You got to
We all
scope.
make decisions.
And then we'll
Hopefully hit the budget
determine
we're looking
projects.
at.
Because people
Okay.
start getting wish lists going.
With
And
this
you lose your public
on
support,
the
and that's what we don't.
November
want to do.
board meeting to approve final plans.
Sure, if it'll work.
Can we get this 18th as our November board meeting? It's in about 2 weeks.
He said.
Do you need,
We would, right now, it's the floor plan that Steve has come up with
Well, you could.
over last week. And you noticed in
I don't
there,
think so.
one question,
No,
was, if you have 4 restrooms in
But
there.
like I said, on
He
the.
has visitor restrooms and home
Yeah.
restrooms.
Yeah.
You
I
gotta
don't know
do
if that's
something.
Can I-
something y'all want or not.
can we bring some,
Future.
okay, can we, if you guys, I know you're running on time. Can I line out some things and at least get your opinion on a couple of things? Okay, so if we're gonna go south side, we're looking at probably this is the current iteration of the south side south side concession stand. Okay. Home restrooms, visitors restrooms. If it's my recommendation, I recommend men's and women's and just make them larger.
Have the
One-
men's on one side.
Men on one side, women's on the other.
Yes.
I agree. And then,
Okay, is that consensus there? Okay, any opposition?
What?
We're not voting, but
Well, if you do it the way that we have it designed there, then you don't have to bring fan bases together.
right.
That's the only thing
Can
is,
I just say, I've been to a lot of football games. I've never run into anybody in a restroom that was gonna like wolf up on me. I don't know
Right.
about anybody else, but.
My
At some point in time, we've got to consider that we're dealing with adults, and if there's an issue, we'll deal with the issue.
right. And
The cost difference between 4 restaurants.
I think so. It saves us-
To go 2 restrooms instead of 4.
and I don't know that we need 2 family restrooms.
If we have 2 family restrooms on either side, and they are both handicap accessible, we don't need a handicap accessible stall inside the big ones.
Is that correct, Steve?
You have to have, if you go over 6 toilets, then you have to have 2.
Yeah. I knew there was
2
a number somewhere.
handicapped?
I was thinking it was 10.
Okay, but
I'm wrong.
One can be a smaller version of it, where it's handrails on both sides, of the stall in one at regular 5x5.
or could you do a family restroom that counts as one handicap accessible area and then put a handicap accessible stall in one of the other bathrooms? And would that count?
Well, both sections have to have at least one handicap accessible unit.
Okay.
And you could have one family handicap.
isn't most of the concessions like what Daisy was just saying, aren't bathrooms usually already split though in most places? Like most times people have a home stands bathroom underneath it and a visitor stand bathroom underneath it. So you don't have to worry about the mingling of fan bases.
If they were built that way.
If they had separate facilities.
That's what a lot of people do have now.
Mhm. But,
We're not-
okay, so I think I'm hearing consistency of men's and women's. That'll probably give us an extra few toilets and a cheaper price. Okay. Family restrooms, 1 or 2, quick opinions.
And I think 2, one for the guys and one for the girls.
Yeah, if we've got men's and women's on either side, we need a family
I
on
think
either
you need
side.
one on
Okay.
each side.
All right.
One question I have is in that concession area, if you look at the floor plan, there's some walls in the middle of the prep area. Do y'all want those walls in there?
I assume those are structural.
These right here?
Yeah.
Well, and because if not, you're walking quite a ways. Well, you got the griddle. Yeah, I kind of like that you have the candies and the chips there, though. I mean, if that's how they're going to put it, because if not, where do you go with those? You got some work tables on the back side of those. Are those full walls
What
all the way up?
are the purpose of these walls? Steven?
Separate the cooking area from the, but see that, they don't have to be there.
Okay.
Put some tables.
I just think that will, it'll make a lot
And you
smaller
can put
space.
electrical in there too.
Are they, so that we can
Be
move
able
them
to
actually
electrical
up,
service, plumbing service.
resituate? Because typically the kids are gonna go to the coolers to get the drinks. Okay. So they'd have to be walking all the way to the back.
So if
Okay.
you don't have those, like where does all your candy and your chips sit?
Right.
You
We
don't
got
have
we do
that.
have to need some
You
kind
got,
of
you gotta
display
have
back
something
there
there, even if it's
where
a
they
half
can reach
wall or
and-
something.
Yeah, right.
With a table.
Just a half counter, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times you put tables right behind.
Or maybe
you.
maybe like a counter kind of thing
This far enough. to
to where
keep kids out, keep
you have
out.
display
Yeah.
and then
I'm thinking something to plug in.
Yeah.
That's all.
Mhm.
But yeah.
I actually like them being in there unless they're unbelievably expensive.
Yeah, I do too. I like.
You've got plumbing coming up the wall, you've got power in them, allow some flexibility 10 years
Okay,
down the
good
road
point.
for something that we can't think of right here. Maybe just a different configuration if we come up with something. I kind of like having that there.
You know, we'll have one thing we'll talk about, is what kind of equipment we really want to need.
Because otherwise they're gonna have to walk
Walk back here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Also, I wanna.
Anything else you guys need from us?
Maybe.
Of course, I got this information a lot from the Boosterville lady.
Yep.
Carly.
She's concession stand.
Shilling.
Yeah.
Aaron Shilling.
She's concession stand. Carly's
Okay.
concession stand.
And, you know, we had talked about the stuff that you buy ahead of time, Cokes, waters, et cetera, that can get hot or even storage. And that's why I put some sort of an HVAC in the storage room, just to keep some temperature.
Okay.
And I don't mind, I put a mini split in there, but, Joseph said they might be running a little high, but they make these little small room coolers that you vent to the outside, which would be enough, just to keep it from getting
Cooking.
Just a little
hot
Yeah.
water.
Okay.
Just
If we do that, I will price it and let you choose that
Okay.
at the time.
Okay.
it'd just be a matter of a drier vent.
Don't want to melt my M&Ms.
Any other things that you guys can see on these plans that you need the board's
How
direction?
many toilets in each room? How many toilets are you talking about? I got
What if we
8
look at?
What you can fit in.
How many do we have now? How many do we have now on the women's side?
I know Sarah had an opinion on it.
I think.
Melanie said there's 4.
No, she's about 8.
8 to 10. I'd say at least 8.
On the women's side, 8, seemed like what Sarah was
Yes.
talking.
Yeah.
8 to 10. If we could do 10, that'd be
Down
great.
there in the way, we're talking 6 for the men's side spots.
With urinals, yeah.
He had
I mean,
4 urinals, 2 stalls.
4
I think
urinals,
we'd
2
need-
stalls,
I think 3 stalls
3
probably.
stalls, 3 urinals,
Yeah.
and then 6 toilets for the women. 8 toilets for the women.
How many? 8.
Okay.
And then if anybody wants to buy kitchen equipment, please have it go through me first. I'll probably do this single phase electric.
So what kind of kitchen equipment has been
And the
discussed?
reason he's bringing that up, sometimes we run into trouble or he does, or, people, they say, we're gonna go get the equipment ourselves, and then they go buy the equipment, with wrong electricity.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, gotcha.
Ends up being a problem.
Gotcha.
Popcorn maker.
Yes, coffee makers. You can-
Or fryers, I think, are more.
So
And we're not
who's gonna
we're
be
not
in charge
interested in
of
that right
figuring
now.
that out?
What's that?
Do we need to talk to people that run the concession stand and figure out what it is we need?
Possibly, but I think I think a lot of what we have will be standard. I mean, just standard refrigerators, those kind of things. What I think where some people have gone a little higher than that is like they get fryers
I
or
mean, do y'all want a kitchen hood in there? Cooking?
To me, it would be nice to be able to have.
to
those
like fry
options
burgers or
to be able
something.
to get.
Burgers in there?
And I think that's been a problem in the past. So it'd be nice if we're gonna do it, let's do
Yeah.
it right.
Let's make
Is
it an
that real
option.
gas? or
Make it an
is that-
option.
So we're talking about having probably like a 4-foot by 8-foot, commercial hood, and then probably a 4-foot grill, a gas grill probably.
Yeah.
And then, and that would leave you a spot for something else possibly, in case you put something, some other kind of cooker underneath the hood.
These were all the recommendations of the people that are currently utilizing the concession stand. So this was all the idea that was given by them. Same thing with the hut. That was all the people that are currently in the hut. That was the idea that they came forward with. When putting
So
this together.
they have a griddle with 2 work tables. So I think and they have a hood
I
here.
actually had the grill 6 foot wide.
Okay. Okay.
Little birds.
Okay.
Cool.
If you guys need anything else, give me a call and I'll work with everybody here to get you what you need. One of the things we may start doing this a little more often because I think we need to as they start building, we need to come to consensus over what we need so that they can be able to build into it. So we may start adding a workshop or two along with our meeting so we can hash some of this out. If you guys are okay with that. Okay.
I would think within a week, we're probably gonna wanna get a floor plan and get a floor plan.
Okay. Okay, our next board.
We're gonna try to get this plan done by the end of the year.
Okay. Next boarding meeting is the 18th. That's in about 2 weeks. Would that be enough time?
As long as we get good consensus on the floor plan.
You can send us out before that, right? And we can look over it and adjust
Give a
anything.
consensus to Greg, and then we can get an idea back to y'all. We can't vote on it.
Right.
Say, hey, this looks cool.
Yep.
Individual emails.
Okay.
Yep.
Steve will probably have that drawn by the end of the day.
We might have it right now.
He'll have it drawn by the end of the day.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you guys. That's good discussion. I appreciate it.
Okay, discussion action items, just one item, discussion of possible approval of a concussion pad for the football field turf project we talked about at our last meeting.
Okay, I sent you guys the only two things that I've gotten on that, or the one was the study that showed that there was actually more, there was actually more injuries with a concussion pad. The other was the GMAX ratings from the turf company themselves. So, and you're more the expert on the GMAX rating, Mr. Schallenbergers.
Not a lot, to be really and truly. I knew that was kind of the standard.
Okay.
For the GMAX. And my opinion is we put a new turf in, it's going to meet the standards. It's going to be well below the standards on the GMAX rating. That study in the American Sports Journal about the concussion pad, it kind of reinforced what I had in my mind, is that I'm not in favor of the concussion pad. I think it's $134,000 gift.
Yeah.
I just do. I understand, and they talk more about the knee and ankle injuries, the leg injuries, than they did the concussion injuries in that study, because it's so much softer and the cleats stick so much more and there's no give. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, the only argument on the other end on some of the reports that you read, let me just throw this out here so you can think on both sides. Usually,
So hold on a second, Josh. So just to bring up protocol, is it okay if Josh gives some input here, Mr. President?
It is.
Okay.
We have him in the meeting specifically.
All right. On the other side, build longevity is usually longer with the concussion pad. Usually, just because of your wear and tear with having another layer on there. That's one of the arguments that was made for it. And then in terms of like on the GMAT test that we're talking about, what you wind up seeing with the people that make the argument to have the concussion pad is that your field starts to get really hard and your field hardens quicker. And so that's where you start to see the concussion start to come in. And so the only argument on the concussion pad is it keeps the field soft longer. And so,
but coach, the argument here is safety. Started with safety,
Right.
should still be on safety.
right.
So this report here is telling me that it's not the evidence that's there. I mean, the length of the field is a different consideration.
Well, if the field doesn't harden too quick, see that's the other argument. If that's the people with concussions, if the field gets too hard too fast, you're more prone to concussion.
If you will maintain it and decompact it every year, like we have always done,
Right.
that won't be an issue.
So I don't think either way. What's going to come down to is maintaining the field.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what it's going to come down to.
And we're committed to doing that year after year. So
Yeah, we've always done that.
I'm with you.
If there is a motion to approve, we've already approved the turf. We did that at our last meeting. Our question was, this was our kind of our last date to be able to approve, to be able to add a concussion pad. If there is a motion to approve the purchase, I remember correctly, 156?
134,000.
134. 56 in my head. $134,000 cost. If there is a motion to approve the purchase of that, Chair would entertain it at this time. Seeing no motion, declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.